Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Faith for Dummies with Rob and Izzie. Hello Izzie, how are you?
Hey Rob, I'm alright thanks. I'm tired because it's very hot at the moment, so sleeping in a very hot room is not very fun, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah, we have little fans for both kids and then we've got a big fan as well.
Yeah, nice. I have not invested in a fan yet, but I feel like I probably need to.
You need to. What's it going to be, 20-30 quid and then help for all the hot times?
Yeah, I guess so. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I feel like I've just done well in a sales pitch though to convince you to do that. So yeah, I'm good. I'm also a bit tired, but yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Good, I'm glad. So this episode, Rob, we had a chat about what we wanted to talk about in season 2. And one of the big things we wanted to chat about was for young people who are going off into the world of work or into the world of university, maybe just sharing some advice with them. So that's what we've done, isn't it? We've got 2 episodes coming up, this one and the next one, where we're talking about those things. So what are we doing in today's episode?
Yeah, brilliant. So today we're looking at sharing your faith at work, and next week we're looking at sharing your faith at uni. And I'm sure there will be some crossover, which will be really good for everyone to hear. But yeah, we're starting off with work, and this can be if you go on to an apprenticeship or straight into work, or even if you're 16 and you've got a job at the local swimming pool as a lifeguard or whatever, really. Saturday job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the things that Caitlin shares in this interview, is Rob's friend, Caitlin, by the way, are really helpful for any of those situations, really. Any situation outside of church where you're talking to non-Christians about your faith. So shall we... Oh, I haven't asked you if you've got a dummy moment.
Oh, what a surprise. You forgot. Yes, I do have a dummy moment, but I'm not going to tell you here. You're going to find out in the interview.
How exciting.
Thanks for that, Izzie.
Let's go straight into the interview.
All right. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm joined by my friend here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Caitlin. I'm one of Rob's friends.
Okay. How do we know each other?
You became the youth leader at my church right as I was about to go to uni. So yeah, and then I think after I'd graduated, me and Jensen and you and your wife got a lot friendlier, and then...
Yeah, you moved back, didn't you, to the area?
I moved back, yeah. And then you guys were obviously still here, and then we got friendlier.
Yeah, still here, and we're still here.
Yeah, and me and my husband are godparents to one of your kids.
You are.
Yeah.
What a privilege, eh, for you?
What a privilege.
What's going on in your life at the moment, or how are you connected with youth work?
And I am working full time. So outside of that, like in my evenings, I help out with youth stuff. So we do like a Wednesday night thing, which is a bit more informal, would you say, Rob? Like a bit more informal for the young people to attend. Yeah,
you and your husband are both involved in various youth bits, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, we're very grateful for you. Thank you.
That's okay. I like doing it.
Do you have any dummy moments from your last week or so?
Yeah, I do. So Sunday, our pastor was going to speak on Pentecost, because it was Pentecost Sunday, and one of the people who comes to our church is a chemistry teacher, and they got them to do a chemistry experiment.
Okay.
I'd seen this as happening, and I saw one of the elders at church, like one of the leaders at church, get this guy out who was a retired fireman. So I assumed he'd got him out in case this thing was going to set on fire. So I spent the whole experiment thinking, like, gosh, I just can't believe it's going to set on fire. I can't believe they're going to do a fire thing at church. That's crazy. Like, I don't think they're allowed to, but okay. I got home, I had a conversation with my husband about this. Like, oh, they pulled that guy out. Like, I wonder why it didn't set on fire. That's strange. And then I found out last night that they pulled him out because someone had pulled the tap off in the men's toilets, and it was splurting hot water everywhere, like scalding hot water everywhere, and it wouldn't stop. So they had to get this guy out because he's a plumber to make it stop. Rob, have you got any dummy moments?
I have a dummy moment to share with you this week. So on Sunday at church, I was washing my hands in the men's toilet.
Yeah.
Guess what happened?
I don't know what happened.
The hot tap broke.
No.
Yeah,
you couldn't write it.
Shock. I actually forgot about that.
That was
thankfully no one knew about my dummy moment until now, so that's
okay.
That's fun.
You could have played it off and pretended it wasn't you, but you owned up.
Brilliant. So this podcast episode is about sharing Jesus in the workplace, because some teenagers leave school, college, and they go straight into work. So why don't we just kick off straight away? How do you share Jesus in your workplace?
Yeah, so with my colleagues, I'm very upfront about the fact I'm a Christian, and like will frequently talk about like, oh, I was at XYZ thing at church the other day. I was at this thing at church. I was doing X with church the other day. So I think I talk about my faith in the way that it like in my life, the way that I'm doing church practical stuff. Like I think it's good to be really open about faith in that way. I think it's also good to practically talk about the gospel with people. I think I feel that sometimes societally people feel that they have like misconceptions about what Christians believe and think. So I think sometimes people might say something at work and I might maybe like be like, oh, actually as a Christian I think about that thing. I will talk about the fact that I'm a Christian and I go to church and I, read my Bible, those kind of things. And like the things I live out on my faith, like talking to my colleagues about how like I didn't move in with my husband until we were married and those kind of things. I find for me, I work with these people, day in, day out. I work with them full time. And it's important for me that I don't want to push people away from me relationally by going in there very heavy handed, like God loves you. He died for you because you do things that are wrong. So I think, but I feel that in being open about my faith and the fact that I go to church opens up avenues to then, when people ask questions, to then have those conversations. I might initiate conversations about church stuff, but I don't necessarily initiate conversations about, I don't know, like the gospel per se. But often I find that from doing the first bit, the second bit comes up organically.
That's interesting. So you tend to bring up stuff that like perhaps where you went at the weekend, including church and what you've done midweek, and as a result of that, people then ask questions more directly about Christianity itself.
Sometimes it's just silly stuff like I was at church and then me and my friends had blah 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 blah, blah conversation about something like totally unrelated, and then it might just go on from there, not necessarily talking about faith, but like we've had I've dropped in the fact that I'm going to church. I had a colleague once ask me about what will I do when I have kids and if they don't want to go to church. I mean, sometimes it's talking about youth games, and I've got colleagues who used to go to church when they were young, when they were in the youth in theory, and then they stopped going to church when they were slightly older, and would just laugh about like the games that we play, or I might mention a game and they're like, oh, that is so the kind of game you play at a Christian youth group, and I'm like, exactly that. So yeah, those kind of things.
Oh, that's fun. I think one of the things you mentioned, which I knew about, but I don't think I'd actively thought about, which I think is quite a good way of doing it, is if I've had a conversation with someone about anything, doesn't have to be church focused, Christianity focused, but it was at church or it was at youth group or something, then when telling someone, like perhaps for you in your workplace or for me just to my friends who aren't Christians, to specify, oh, when I was at church I had this conversation, and actually that's exposure, isn't it, to people to know that you go to church, and also to bring up those opportunities for them to ask questions. And I kind of was aware of that, but to actively think about something so simple that could work really well, I think that's a really, really cool point.
Yeah, and off the back of those conversations, there's been conversations about like people who were brought up going to church and had quite complicated feelings around that. Felt like maybe their family would go in and act one way at church and another way at home, and maybe like I think maybe sometimes I've spoken with colleagues who felt that, I don't know, that Christians sometimes maybe have put up a facade when they go to church, like everyone's playing the keeping up with the Joneses, like they're kind of like keeping up with all the good stuff and acting like everything's okay, and kind of, and I've been like, actually no, that's not been my experience of going to church, and like I experienced it to be actually people go there because they need God. Like I recognize I need God, and I recognize everyone around me needs God, and I'm really conscious in my mind of thinking like, how can I link this back to the gospel? Like as we're talking, I'm like, how can I try and get this back to the gospel message of actually like God really loves you and wants to have a relationship with you and with me. Yeah,
cool. Do you have a story where sharing Jesus went well for us?
Yeah, I can think of a time where I tried to sort of pray about like, God, help me have a conversation with someone today about you. And I'd had a colleague on this day that asked me about faith, but we're talking about my family, and I've got 2 younger brothers. And they said something like, oh, do your brothers go to church too? Like, do they go to church as well? And I said, yeah, they do. And we kind of had a bit of a chat about that. And as it went on, I sort of thought, I think what I don't want them to leave with is an idea that like it's like a Nepo baby thing. Like my parents are Christians, so I'm a Christian, so my brothers are Christians. Like actually I wanted to get across that like it's a decision that I've made and they've made separately, they're not just doing it because my parents are Christians and because I'm a Christian. Like they have to come to that own decision themselves. So we kind of had a bit of a chat about, I decided to be a Christian when I was this old, and my brothers, for each of them that's looked different. Like for one of my brothers, they've been on a football team and they were trying to prioritize going to church and attending church things, and also playing football, which often was on Sundays, and doing those things, and then how that looked with his faith growing up. And now that he's at university, he's engaged with these things, and his faith has grown in this way. What I wanted to get across to them was like, we've made those decisions independently. I'm not a Christian because my parents are Christians. I'm a Christian because I'm a Christian, and my brothers aren't Christians because I or my parents are Christians. They're a Christian because they are a Christian, and they love God and they've decided that themselves. I wonder if there's sometimes a misconception that people are a particular religion because their parents are that particular religion. And I was trying to get across that that's like not it. And I think I also, in my own testimony, then I linked to like how when I was a teenager, like I was really skirting the line of like, I like to be a Christian when I'm at church stuff, but outside of that, I'm going to call myself a Christian, but I'm not going to do any of the stuff that a Christian would do. I think I try and demonstrate that this, I'm not just live like this lovely idyllic Christian little girl life. Like I have done stuff that like God has not wanted for me, and then later realize actually like God, how much God loves me and how much God wants me to have a relationship with him, and how all this stuff that God wants us to do is actually for our own sake. Like it's not just because he's boring and wants us to have all these rules. It's like it's best for us to do that. So yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, and in that you mentioned about your brother and prioritizing football and also prioritizing church and the balance of that. You give me an idea, maybe for a future episode. Maybe that should be something
he'd
that
be good to talk to. Actually,
do you have a story for us where sharing Jesus didn't go well, and then how you dealt with that?
I not so much sharing Jesus didn't go well, but I like maybe noticing how my colleagues maybe like faith can be a really uncomfortable topic in the workplace.
Yeah.
So we were talking about I was talking to a colleague once about how I'm quite sensitive to caffeine and coffee. I think like if I only really have one coffee a day at most, because otherwise I get quite jittery. And I have little rules in place in my head of like when and where I have coffee and what time, so that I don't get really jittery and anxious, because otherwise I do. And I think I was telling them like, oh yeah, I don't really have coffee after like 11, maybe 1 if it's a particularly tiring day and I've not had one. And my colleagues started joking like, oh, you're a little Christian gangster. And then we kept like calling me the little Christian gangster all day, or like LGC, LGC, like you're the LGC, like all day.
That is my new nickname for you, the LGC.
And I thought it was really funny. I got home, I told Jensen, I thought it was hilarious. I was like, this is so funny. I was being called the little Christian gangster all day. And then the following day, I was setting up for something in the office, and they came into the room I was in, and they were like, can I have a quick chat with you? I was like, yeah. And they were like, she was like, I think what I was saying to you yesterday might have been inappropriate, and I'm really sorry if it upset you. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were apologizing for calling me this, because they thought like, they were like, you're not meant to talk about like religion in the workplace, or like, I think there's this idea of like politics and religion, like keep that to yourself because it can cause arguments kind of thing. So she came to apologize for that, because she felt like she didn't want to come across as like being rude to me or whatever. And I was like, I thought it was really funny. Like I thought the relationship that we had as colleagues, like I thought that was really in good humor. And I said that to her, like, I don't mind. Like I really thought it was funny. I went home, I was telling I told people outside of work, I thought it was really funny. So it wasn't so much that I was sharing about my faith and it didn't go well, but more like the response of other people that I work alongside around faith can be that of discomfort and around. So that's why I'm like conscious when I talk to people about doing it in a way that isn't, because I wouldn't want to put someone in a position where they left feeling how she thought I'd left. I think having conversations with colleagues after conversations, being like, look, if we had this conversation and I wonder if maybe you left feeling uncomfortable, like it's okay to professionally talk about that. So I'd say that to people going into the workplace, like you can say to colleagues like, oh, actually, I wonder if when I said this, I might have made you feel uncomfortable, and I'm sorry if that's the case, because that doesn't diminish the gospel. Saying to someone, I'm sorry if maybe the way I spoke to you yesterday about it might have left you feeling uncomfortable on reflection.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. I mean, this podcast is obviously aimed at teenagers, but I'm sure lots of people can get lots of things that you've said out of it that aren't teenagers. I know you went to uni and you didn't go straight into the workplace, but I am aware that you know someone very well who did do that. Do you have any perhaps advice then for teenagers going straight into work?
I think my advice is being open from the get-go about faith. Yeah, and being transparent about that. I know like for Jensen, he's been open with his colleagues about like from day one, like, I go to church. He used to have like, there's like 4-point wristbands that had like the heart and the X, and then like the cross, and then a question mark. I think he had like one of those as a jumper. He'd wear that to work quite a bit because it was like that was okay. I'd like retire to wear sweatshirts to work for his role, and that would spark conversations. Like he was very open from like the get-go, and both in the jobs he's had, about his faith. I think living it out is really important too. Like you can go in to work and say I'm a Christian, but if you're effing and jeffing, and if you're gossiping or being nasty about people, and also like you're difficult to work with, or you're judgmental, or you don't, or like people think you're like not working very hard and they find you, all these things, I think you're not then living out stuff that biblically we're called to do. And sometimes that means doing stuff that maybe is a bit countercultural. Like when I said to my colleague, like, oh yeah, I didn't move in with my husband until we were married. I'm playing the long game with colleagues and with extended family and whoever. Like I don't put pressure on myself to think like I've been at this new, like, if I get a new job or I go into a new place, I don't think to myself, I've got to have a conversation today about my faith or about, I see my role as being like, I am here to work and do a good job and do that because I'm good at that job and God has given me those skills and put me in a position to be doing this job. But also I want to build relationships with my colleagues and with other people that I have regular contact with.
Relationship is important, isn't it? Like it's fundamental to the gospel, really, like the relationship between us and God through Jesus. And you don't just want to tell people the gospel. Well, we want to tell everyone the gospel, but not really for only the sake of it, without really getting to know the person that we're doing it to. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, that's everything. So thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Back to Rob and Izzie in the studio.
Great. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thank you, Rob, for interviewing her. It was really interesting to hear some of the different ways that she shares about her faith, particularly for us two, because we both work in the church. So we have moments in our life where we are in spaces with mostly non-Christians, but a lot of our work life is spent with Christians or people who probably want to hear about Jesus because they've come into a church. So it's really helpful, I hope.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that she mentioned, which I kind of said in the episode, but was really helpful, was whatever you're talking about, if it was at church, to say that it was at church, because it's really good, just gentle exposure to the people that you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. Just and even just what did you get up to at the weekend? Like such an easy way to throw church in there. I really loved how she talked about her kind of friendship and her mission to share Jesus with her colleagues it's a long-term thing. I can't remember how much of it she got into in the episode, but she shared about how it's a long game, and actually you don't need to go into work thinking I'm going to share the gospel with everybody today and they're all going to convert. Actually, it's just about sharing your life. It's about sharing little bits. It's about praying for them and talking to them, and that might take years for them to even ask you a question about Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a marathon, isn't it? It's not a sprint. And also Caitlin's got to be, well, we all have in the workplace, got to remember that we're professional and we've got to keep that boundary right, which is why not being a sprint and being a long-term thing is actually really helpful. Also, I can't not talk about the fact that she's now called Little Christian Gangster. I think I'm going to rename her that as my contacts on my phone.
It's brilliant. That's so brilliant.
Yeah. I think she said she's our eldest. She's the godmother for. Yeah, he's going to have a Little Christian Gangster as a godmum.
Amazing. And if you know Caitlin, or if you've seen her at church, you will know that name does not really correlate with who she is as a person.
Yeah. Oh, and my dummy moment. Yeah, that was fun. That
was great.
About that.
I can't believe you broke the taps.
Yeah. So all I did was press it. It wasn't. Anyway, although apparently I was at this meeting where they found out that I broke the tap. Apparently I was outed easily. It was like, oh yeah, Rob did. No,
nobody's got your back.
Don't even need to ask me who it was. I'll just tell.
Well, that was really helpful stuff about being a Christian in the workplace and sharing your faith. Next week, we're going to talk to somebody else, one of my friends, about what it's like to be a Christian at uni and how to start uni well as a Christian, as someone who wants to share their faith with people around them.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's just going to be released in time for people about to go to university, either for the first time or back for second and third year. So we really hope that you enjoy it. We really hope that you find it useful and beneficial for your walk in Christianity and university. Just really hope that it's something that is good for you. And also, just a reminder, we have got an email, we've got an Instagram. Do let us know, be in touch if we can do any sort of topics or episodes that will be useful for you in your situation. Yeah.
Great, absolutely. Cool. Well, I will see you next week to chat about university.
Looking forward to it. See you next week. Bye, everyone. Bye, Izzie.
Bye, Rob.
Bye.
Bye.